Adam Holloway, Grenadier Guardsman, now a Tory MP. Adam actually christened me the Maharaja of Nunney donkeys years ago. Anything that the postman sees, certainly, he always puts on there, the Maharaja of Nunney. And so some people take that rather seriously. So you do have, I know there are whispers in the village. Is he really a Maharaja? And I'm afraid to everybody that says, no, I'm not. I'm just some necky scrote from Preston.
Having had this extraordinary rough and tough career, not just in the army, but in private security, where he was, in firefights sometimes every single day, he then moved to Nunney and kind of settled into this sort of routine where he was taking, care of old ladies who were afraid in the night because there were noises in the garden, or changing people's light bulbs. The beautiful way he's been with young Orla over all these years. I mean, he's a remarkable man.
I remember my mother telling me that we, our family, our tribe, we were known as the blind man's tribe. My great-grandfather was blind. Apparently, we were quite well known in that particular part of the Punjab. There was an American drilling company that I got a job with, and we were out in the Middle East, and a chap who'd been in the Falklands War started to chat to me about the parachute regiment. And he actually told me, he said, I think you'd fit in well there. And I read Cornelius Ryan, A Bridge Too Far. Cornelius Ryan, I don't think he intended it as recruiting literature. But nevertheless, it sort of gave me an idea of what it was all about. And I went down to the careers office, said I want to join the parachute regiment. Within 2 months, I was in Aldershot. Jackson, later General Sir Mike Jackson, was flicking through my P file. He was furious that I hadn't gone for commission. And he said, you hang on a second. He said, you were a year at Oxford. I said, yeah. And he said, what, you joined the ranks? Anyway, had a bit of a meltdown. Said to Andy Kennett, put him on the next commissioning course. And so I went off to the Legion for 10 months and did the Pathfinder course, came back and went to Sandhurst. We used to use this idea that I was foreign royalty. We came back from Minley Manor and we'd wound the captain up that I was foreign royalty. And he rang Sandhurst and said, look, just to say, delighted to have these visits from Sandhurst, etc. If you do have foreign loyalty, it would be useful if you told us and then we'd make the necessary arrangements. To which my company commander said, I'm not entirely sure who you're talking about. And he said, well, Prince Poonia. And I just remember getting off the coach and the Sergeant Major shouting, Your Royal Highness, a word.
Nunney seems to me to be this sort of little paradise in the middle of Somerset, which people gravitate towards. It's just the most beautiful, quintessentially English little village with a medieval church, an incredibly old castle which dominates the whole village. But it also has this incredible community which seems to be so closely knitted, but it's made up of some very eclectic characters.
I have very clear ideas of what I can do to make it a better village, and have had since I first arrived here. So when I arrived here, I had a better reception than other people of my generation because of the army. We're a village, we don't do hazing, don't do ridiculous ceremonies, etc., etc., but just invite people over for a drink. The best you might get is good morning from then on. You don't have to be in each other's pocket. You don't have to be best friends. They could even come and think, he's not my cup of tea, but thank you for inviting me. So all you do from then on is just say good morning to each other. But that good morning is has a place.
No, I think Shindi is the sort of person, if he didn't exist in a village like this, you'd have to invent him.
Well, he would have been the vicar in the olden days, because he knows every person, he knows every name, he knows every
absolutely
address.
Amazing.
And I just suggested to her, well, the nature of COVID being what it is, rather than a roster where we're moving around, let us devote our time to people who perhaps who are comfortable with us, who know who we are, etc., etc. So I chose Lord and Lady Watson. One, because I know their sons. I've known them for 20 years. I know their sons well. I know their families well. And because Lord Watson has a better wine cellar than most people in the village, and that was not lost upon me.
I just said to him, it's an old lady, this car, and it never had a scratch on it.
Never.
And, it was always well tended. And I'm a very sedate, if I may say so, sedate driver.
I think I drive a little bit quicker than she does, and so if I use their Volvo to go and get their shopping, etc., they've been in the car with me, and I drive a bit quicker, and I think she thinks, I'm sort of racing around, and I think she drives it too slowly.
He had to organize a parade, and they all stood in front of him, and he dressed down or reprimanded one of them in no uncertain words, really. And suddenly a little girl walked through the ranks and said to him, you do not speak like that to my daddy. and that's the wonderful thing about Shindi, he just picked up and said,
Quite right.
no, he said, how would you like me to speak to him? He was naughty. She understood that. And then he said to the person in front of him, so-and-so, will you kindly please clean your weapons or whatever? And she said, that's better.
And on the council estate where I was born, that was the way. You ran errands for people next door. The old dear next door would shout across to my mother that her grass needed cutting, and she'd send one of us out.
I feel so privileged and honoured to have been welcomed into the heart of Nunney by everyone, especially Shindi, who has just got this generosity of spirit which permeates out.